That's like a huge question.
Yeah.
So, 9 years ago now, I came home one day to find Tony, my husband, lying on the sofa, coloured grey, shaking and sweating. And I won't go into the reasons for that because he's going to tell you that in his story. But that was the beginning of mental health issues in my immediate family. And the doctors the doctors dealt with the physical side of what was happening to Tony, but nobody was there to deal with the emotional side and the emotional kickback. And so that's where I had to kind of step up along with Tony and learn everything there was to learn about helping him to recover from what it turned out was a blackout or a near blackout caused by stress. And just when we kind of got through the 2 years of how difficult that was, we moved house. We thought it would be great, new start, promotion, but it was, to a point. It was great for Tony, it was great for me, it was great for our younger son Jamie, but it was the beginning of hell on earth for our eldest son Kieran, who became extremely ill with anxiety, was also diagnosed with autism, autistic spectrum disorder, and so followed many years of learning how to help and support Kieran, learning how to help him help himself to get better. And as part of that process, I became quite heavily involved in trying to help other people with the same problems.
So I was a senior manager at a large travel group looking after the in-house design studio, which was always incredibly busy. There was always a massive amount of work to do in relatively tight timescales. So there was a certain amount of pressure and a certain amount of positive stress, in the sense that we were always very proud of what we produced and very proud when we met deadlines and all that kind of stuff. So I was quite happy there for a number of years, and then one summer's evening I was driving home from work and came over feeling quite peculiar, like I was going to faint and nearly black out, which was obviously behind the wheel of a car very, very scary. But I did manage to get home safely, thankfully. And when I got home, my wife Rachel obviously took a look at me and said that I looked very, very unwell, very grey. So we headed down to the local hospital, and they put me on an ECG machine. And it was at that point that we discovered that I had what they call left branch block, a few heart troubles and palpitations and things going on. And after a lot of investigation and a week in hospital, it was actually discovered that these were stress-induced problems, and it was a very, very long time, a period of recovery, to not only overcome the physical manifestations of stress, but also the mental fallout, because for 2 years I was struggling very, very badly with anxiety, with a lot of things that were connected with stress and prolonged stress at work. So I had to put in place a lot of different strategies to cope with those things and to overcome them in the longer term. I mean, for example, I couldn't drive. I was frightened that I might black out again. And there were all sorts of other things that used to kind of give me anxiety or set me off, like loud music and loud movies and things. So it was a very difficult time for me and for my family.
The main obstacles were that there wasn't any help available. It was hard enough to try and get support for Kieran as a then 15-year-old from, not so much from the doctors, but the truth is that a lot of GPs they're not qualified to work with mental health. They're not allowed to prescribe medication for anybody under 16. So there was limited resource there. We had to wait many months for a referral to CAMHS, and then it was a very long, slow process, which did help Kieran, but not on a day-to-day basis. And there was nothing that we could tap into to help Tony when he was ill, and there was definitely absolutely nothing to give me any kind of support.
My coping strategies were varied and obviously suited my lifestyle and things that I was able to adapt into my lifestyle to make my mental and physical health considerably better than it was. I mean, sitting behind an office desk all day and being in charge of a large group of people, is not the healthiest thing or place to be for your mind or your body. So I took the decisions to actually improve both by getting more physical exercise, getting out more regularly, getting more fresh air, and employing lots of calming techniques for my mental well-being, things that actually enable me to take time out quickly and easily and regularly to overcome some of the anxiety problems.
I think it's really important for people nowadays to understand mental health because it's something that we all have. And there's this stigma associated with mental health, like it's some kind of pariah, like only weak people get it. Well, we all have mental health exactly the same as we all have physical health. And in today's society, we live in a kind of a 24/7 on-demand society where we never actually get the chance to switch off. And the impact that has on us, both emotionally and physically, is phenomenal. But actually, there are so many things that you can do, just very simple things to help manage both your mental and your physical health so that most people wouldn't need to get to the stage where they're looking for professional support in that area. But because there's so much stigma and such a lack of education and actually a lot of denial in most people's heads, if they're tired or they can't concentrate or things don't feel quite right, that's just something they have to push through because it's mental rather than physical. So I just think that now it's really important to educate people so that less of us become affected by stress-induced mental health issues.
Well, thankfully the long-term outcome has been great. I'm actually physically very strong, mentally very fit now as a result of maintaining those strategies and as a result of being much more aware of how stress manifests itself or can manifest itself, what the warning signs are, what to do and what not to do to maintain good mental health and as far as possible a stress-free life. I mean, we do have stress inevitably, but it's very much a case of recognising what it is early enough to be able to put the right things in place to live through it and to come out the other side a happier and brighter person.
I think communication is really important. I think routines are important and creating opportunities for communication, like for example having dinner at the family table, because that creates opportunities for conversation that might otherwise be difficult, particularly with teenagers, not so much with younger children because they will talk, although to be fair, if younger children are experiencing issues, they will go quiet too. So creating opportunities for open communication without it being a kind of grilling are really important. And also just trying to do things together as a family and to have family practices like, a conversation in the evening that says what was good about your day today, which is encouraging everyone to look for the positives, as well as opening up opportunities to talk about any difficulties.
I think stress in the workplace and the management of that stress is hugely important. Thankfully, it is front of mind with a lot of organisations now. There's been a lot of publicity about mental health and the ramifications and impact of mental health in the workplace. And a lot of employees are now actually getting the right things in place. I think there is still, however, a stigma attached to most mental health issues, and most people would prefer not to talk about it, when in fact talking about it is absolutely the best thing that you can do. And having an environment, certainly within the workplace, is very important, a means to say what you're feeling and to actually talk to the people that can have some influence over the policies that improve your situation. For example, I had what I called a time-out card, which I gave to my staff as a result of my own issues. I issued each of my team members a time-out card. So if they just wanted time away from the desk, away from the computer, just to regroup and deep breathe or whatever it was they wanted to do for 10 minutes, all they had to do was give me their time-out card, so I understood that they were, off site for 10 minutes and would come back obviously much fitter and better able to work.
So myresilientfamily.com is an idea that has kind of grown over the last few years. After Tony got ill and then Kieran, I started developing workshops initially to support young people and then expanded that out to support adults in the education community, and for the last few years that's also included adults out in the public and private sector in business. And the work is fantastic and I love doing it and I get really good feedback, and I know that a lot of people find it helpful and have gone on to use it to support themselves and of course to support their colleagues and their friends and their family. But at the moment nobody can access this kind of training unless they get it through their employer. And also it's not just about helping individuals who are suffering, because there's always a me behind that. There's always a somebody else who is there trying to help the person that is suffering. And so it could be me as a wife, it could be me as a daughter, it could be me as a mother, it could be me as a sister. But there's always a me, there's always a somebody behind the scenes that is trying desperately to help and support the people that they care about. And so My Resilient Family is intended really to give people like me the opportunity to learn and to be educated so I can support the people I care about and to get the support that I need for myself. But actually My Resilient Family is so much more than that, because as well as me learning those things, at the same time the people that I'm trying to help or other people in my family can be learning the same things, so that we all have a better understanding of how to look after ourselves, how to look after each other, and so hopefully nobody is gonna, or a lot fewer people are gonna get into the place where they have more serious issues with mental health, whether they're an adult or a child.
I think My Resilient Family can help enormously, because having been in that position, having been not only a stressed dad myself, but a stressed manager, there was an enormous amount of resources that we discovered through being in that position and discovered that actually worked. So those resources are available on myresilientfamily.com in the form of workshops, in the form of downloadable resources. I think if those had been available to me at the time I was experiencing difficulties, it would have been, a very, very good place to start putting things right, because they are extremely effective. I can vouch for that. I'm living proof that the Circles of Life workshop, for example, has all the elements that brought me back to better mental health and much improved physical health as well.
So if I could give one piece of advice for maintaining positive mental health, it would be to fit your own mask first. And what I mean by that is that, in the airplanes, if the cabin pressure drops, the masks fall down from the panels above, and the guidance is fit your own mask first, because if you don't, you won't be able to breathe, and therefore you won't be able to help the people around you. So this is another really strong message in My Resilient Family. It's not selfish to put yourself first, to give yourself the care and attention that you need. It's actually selfless, because if you do that, then you are at your best, you're at your strongest, you have the most energy and the most enthusiasm for being able to go out and help the people that need your help.
Well, I think even if you don't have issues, the workshops and the resources are giving you a level of understanding which prevents or could prevent things becoming seriously wrong with you, both mentally and physically. Because, if you're not aware of these things, if you don't understand how these things can build up and what the science is behind them, what's actually happening in your body and in your brain. You know, you might dismiss some of the very early warning signs as just, you know, something symptomatic of a virus or an illness, rather than something that's building up to something that could be considerably worse. So going through the workshops and fully understanding what stress is, you know, and how it presents itself not only potentially in yourself but in others, just helps enormously in combating at a very early stage what needs to be addressed.